So I left off after the headaches had returned again. So I decided to take up the offer of my ENT to go for a head scan. So I went for a CT scan at some place in the avenues in Harare. So after the scan, I waited for about 2 to 3 days. Then my doctor called and said he had received the CT scan. So I went there and he told me the results. So he said I have what is called chronic sinusitis. So it had been the reason for the headaches. So he recommended an operation immediately, but I was still in shock that at first, I have chronic sinusitis. I didn't even understand what that was to begin with. And then now I'm hearing the word operation and that was a shock for me. So he ended up saying, I can't force you to take the recommendation. So if you want, you can take some pills. But his defense for not recommending the pills as the first option was that I had gone to him earlier on, as I pointed out in the first video, that I was having allergies, and the allergies kind of also contributed to this condition, and the meds that I'd been taking for the allergies are supposed to also help to prevent this chronic sinusitis, something like that, if I understood it well. So his reason for recommending the operation was that he didn't think it would work, given I'd already been taking the medication for the sinuses through the allergies, but it had failed to work. So I insisted that I wanted to try some antibiotics. So he gave me a course that I was supposed to take, and I would come and see him after 6 weeks. So I started, and I don't even know what I was drinking. At first I was drinking the antibiotics all wrong. I only discovered that I was taking the antibiotics just once a day in the evening after 3 days. Yet I was supposed to be taking them twice, so I'm sure that ruined something there. So I then corrected my mistake and started taking the medication correctly. The headaches kind of subsided for a while. They stopped maybe for a week or two whilst I was taking the meds. But then after 3 weeks, just when I thought, my predicament had been resolved, the headaches started again. You can imagine, I was pretty bummed about it, because I thought finally it's done. And it was back. So the pressure from the side of the head had started again, and it was intense, as you can imagine. So it was after 4 weeks, and I decided I'm not going to wait anymore for the 6 weeks, so I'm going to go back to see him after the 4 weeks. So I went back to the ENT so that he can give me a quotation for the operation. So once I got to his office, he drafted up the paperwork and everything, and then he told me the total. But then he understood that I had a medical aid, which was USD. So he decided to check with the medical aid how much they would contribute. And then, so I didn't think I would actually have to go through the operation immediately, because I imagined there would be shortfalls. So he was like, this one is excited that she's not going for the operation anytime soon. I'm actually wavering the shortfalls. I'm deciding to do the operation with whatever amount that the medical aid will offer. So he's like, so if you're comfortable with it, you're my child, you're like my daughter. So I'm just going to do away with the shortfalls, and we take whatever is on the medical aid. So he's like, if you want, you can book for Tuesday. So I was like, okay, let me just get it over with anyway and book the operation for Tuesday. So I completed some paperwork, and then he told me to go to the reception, and the sister in charge would tell me more details about what I'm supposed to do. So I talked to her, and then she told me I had to go and get a COVID test, and then go and make some payments for the operation, the theater room, because they don't have a theater room at their surgery. So after I then went home the following day, because this was on a Friday, so I had Saturday, Sunday and Monday to prepare, so that on Tuesday I would go for my operation. So I then went for the COVID test on Monday. So they instructed the nurse to give me a test through the throat. So they put the swab through the mouth, and then it goes through there so that they can do the COVID test. But I can imagine it's not as bad as the one that goes through the nose, because that one just looks so painful. So yeah, then they told me to come and get the results at 5 a.m. in the morning. So it's a 24-hour center, so I had to do as they had said. And then I went to the hospital in the avenues that I was going to use, and they actually did the paperwork, and they told me that I was all set for the operation on Tuesday. So now I had the task of telling family and friends. So I decided to tell just my family and my in-laws, so that I don't tell a lot of people. You know how it is when you tell people you're going for an operation. Some panic, and then they also push you to panic. You know, people react differently to the news. You know, some might end up making some comments that might make you even become more scared. So I didn't want many people to know, and I told people not to come because I didn't want to freak out. The moment you realize so many people are now coming in, you know, it's traumatic as I thought. So that was my thought process. So I decided just to inform those ones, and I assured them it's not a major procedure, so you just stay put and we'll be giving you updates. So I then, but deep down, you know, I was actually panicking. I was really panicking. I was worried, and I'm thinking, what if I don't wake up? What if there's a complication? You know, you might never really understand how these things fully work. So then the day finally arrived anyway. So we went to the hospital at 6 a.m. That is after I collected my COVID results at 5 a.m. They were negative. Then I went 6 a.m. I was already there. Then I was checked in, I was given a bed, so I was just resting. I even slept, but I was having a running stomach because I was panicking. That's how I react when I'm panicking. I usually have a running stomach. So I was constantly going to the toilet. Then it took time. I think they already had other people whom they were operating, so I had to wait because the doctor had actually asked me if it was okay for me to wait while they operate the kids who were there before me, because the kids tend to become more restless if they are asked to wait for a long time. So I was like, it's okay, it's fine. So I was resting. I ended up even dozing at some point. I was sleeping because I didn't want to keep thinking about it. Then the doctor came, he explained the procedure to me, and then the anesthetist also came, and I hope that's the correct term, but the one who gives you the injection to sleep, they actually came and they were explaining how they do it and how they would wake me up, and they were telling me not to panic, everything will be okay. And then so I now had an understanding of what was really going to take place, you know. And the nurses also came, and they were just checking my blood pressure, sugar, you know, just to make sure everything is okay before the operation. So after I think around 10 o'clock or half 10, that's when they finally came, and I had to change, and then they took me on the stretcher and they were taking me to the theater room. So they left my husband here to go and sit by the reception while he waited for the procedure. So once we got into the theater, we actually the operation didn't okay right away. They told us that it takes maybe 45 minutes to 1.5 hours tops. Now, what happened was, once we got into the theater room, we waited for about 30 minutes. I was just sleeping there. There were just people around me, were just preparing some stuff, not like directly in the theater room because it has several rooms. This was not the one that they were going to use to operate me, but I could see in the background that there were some people who were preparing some stuff. So while they were preparing, I was just sleeping there, and I imagined that, you know, my husband actually thought they had begun the operation. So they only started the operation half an hour later. Okay, so they finally took me to the theater room, and you know, you'd be dazzled. You know, you're in a state of confusion because once you get in there are people who are connecting this thing as, I don't know what they are called, like everywhere, and they are just explaining that they have to check your vital organs, and then there's someone putting a catheter here, and they are putting the injections for you to sleep. You don't stay in the state of confusion for so long, because before you know it, you doze off, you're out. So that's the last I remember. And then I actually woke up, I think after 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, because it took a while for the drugs to wear off. But you can imagine my husband was kind of panicking, because now he was calculating the time from the time they took me to the time that the operation had been done, and no one had told him that they had not started at the time that they took me. So he was kind of panicking. And when they finally called him, when they had put me to bed, and they'd injected me to wake up, he came, and you know, I was drunk, and you are like not saying anything understandable, you're just mumbling stuff. That's what I was doing. And you know, I remember he was laughing and saying that when he asked me what I wanted, I was like, I want KFC. He was like, you know, that's how I knew that you were okay, because you know, I love KFC, and if I could actually remember that I want KFC, it shows that, you know, at least Bridget is there somewhere, you know, and things are actually okay. So, and my aunt actually also came through, and she was just laughing and saying, you know, you were mumbling so much stuff, and I don't even know what you were saying. I just hope I didn't divulge any secrets in my drunken state, because before you know it, you'd have said something that you didn't want people to know. Just kidding. But yeah, that was how I ended up waking up. And I remember when I woke up, someone was just saying, you know, try to breathe through the mouth, because my nose had some stuff that they had put so that blood doesn't ooze out. So it was stuck up through the nose, because they had done the operation through the nose using endoscopes. So my nose were totally blocked and not functioning. So yeah, that was the procedure and what they did so that